Today, I want to take a closer look at two major giants. We did see Google and Amazon have some interesting news come out for the AI market that could impact giants like Nvidia and could kind of talk a little bit more about the future growth potential for these two giants. So let's take a closer look in today's episode.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for their subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
Today was an interesting earnings day. We had a lot of popular stocks. I'm going to just take a closer look at after hour price movements right now. If you guys want me to do an earnings video on any of them, let me know in the comments below and I will try my hardest. But I am going on vacation tomorrow. I still will do a video on a daily basis, but it might come out a little bit later than my normal time. It's crazy. I think it's been over 2 months and I've done a video every single day without missing, and I'm not going to start now. But first, let's start off here with earnings numbers. So Credo, ticker CRDO, in the semiconductor space, the stock was up roughly 12% after hours. Now we do have a recent IPO, Figma. Figma is down roughly 14% after hours. Salesforce, another kind of software name, CRM, is down roughly 5.5% after hours. We also had C3.ai down roughly 10.85%. One of my companies that I own right now is also down as they reported earnings. GitLab is down roughly 7.7% after hours of 43%. And we also had HPE report earnings, and the stock is up about 1.4%. So it seems like if you are in the software market, it's either a major win or a major lose. Today, for most software players, we did see kind of those major hits happening after hours. Now with Credo Technology, definitely it seems like there is still some strong momentum due to AI accelerators for this company with the market cap of roughly $22 billion. So again, if you want me to do a video on any of those, let me know in the comments below. Now, another company that also had a recent update is CoreWeave. So CoreWeave is another one that I do like right now. So CoreWeave and GitLabs are two that I own big positions in, and I'm very, very excited for long-term potential in them. And these down prices, if anybody's curious, I do find as an attractive entry point to continue to add to my positions. And this is through my typical dollar cost average in the market, right? Put money to work on a weekly basis. Now, CoreWeave right now, roughly down 3.7%, sitting below $90. This is one I liked. I did a previous episode on CoreWeave, I think 2 or 3 days ago, where I kind of talk a little bit more about the bullish sentiment there. Feel free to check it out. I know sometimes people worry that if the stock drops, my overall sentiment changes. Nope. The market is how the market is. I obviously talked about the volatility for CoreWeave. The long-term potential, I think, is still there. So just a quick feedback. I'm not changing any of my thoughts on CoreWeave based on the video that I had a few days ago. Now, CoreWeave did announce something interesting today on September 3rd, CoreWeave to acquire OpenPipe, which is a leader in reinforcement learning. So CoreWeave, the AI hyperscalers, today announced a definite agreement to acquire OpenPipe, a leading platform for training AI agents with reinforcement learning. OpenPipe has created advanced machine learning techniques that have become a preferred developer framework to train agents. CoreWeave's chief strategy officer mentioned by combining OpenPipe's advanced self-learning tools with CoreWeave's high-performance AI cloud, they are expanding their platform to give developers at AI labs and beyond an important advantage in building scalable, intelligent systems. Now, this might be in small acquisitions, as terms of the acquisitions are not being disclosed. But we can see how CoreWeave is moving more from not just a bare metal rental, but also providing some form of software solution on top. So I like the acquisition. It also seems like a small acquisition, so nothing that I would be too concerned about. Now, I want to talk with about Google, right? So Google is 231. Congratulations to all of us bulls here that talked about this stock in the super cheap prices of $150. Pop up some of the videos that I did in just 3-4 months ago when we talked about Google around that price target. So right now, the stock was up 9%. We talked the main reason yesterday, but today we started to see a little bit other news impacting the market. So there are reports that Google is ramping up their AI chip market, their TPUs, to kind of go into the external market, right? Google right now uses these TPUs for their AI workloads, for their Gemini training, for their Gemini inference. Now, there are reports that they are working with other labs to maybe start using or buying some of those chips. So it's actually pretty interesting because it kind of showcases that maybe it's becoming a threat to Nvidia. Now, I want to say the AI market is constantly evolving. And this is why, as an AI semiconductor investor, you have to keep up with the news to understand what's happening. So, right now, obviously, NVIDIA is my biggest position. Things like this is what I keep a closer eye on. And things like this don't kind of react right away, right? It's not like the market goes completely changing to TPUs if this is true. What ends up happening is you start to hear reports of one AI lab using it, another AI lab, and that's how the market starts. So this is why you have to kind of continue to investigate this market. So that's where we are right now, investigating the Google TPU. In the upcoming months, maybe we'll hear more or less about potential customers, potential deal signing, potential selling. But this is, if true, obviously could be kind of a somewhat threat to Nvidia's strength. If the market is so overgrowing, even if you lose market share, you're still fine. But I do see this more as being extremely bullish for Google and actually could be very bullish for companies like Broadcom as well, right? Because Broadcom definitely gets a nice amount of the pie when Google kind of makes or these TPUs. But I wanted to kind of listen to Perplexity and see what's happening. So, right now, what's happening in early September, Google has begun deploying tensor processing units in third party data centers for the first time. The tech giant has reached agreement with small cloud server providers to host Google's AI chips in their facilities, marking a more direct challenge to NVIDIA's dominance in the AI chip market. FluidStack, a London based cloud provider, has become the first to confirm partners in this initiative, agreeing to deploy Google's TPU in its New York data center. Google has also approached other NVIDIA dependent cloud server providers, including Croso, which builds NVIDIA based data centers for OpenAI, and CoreWeave, which leases NVIDIA's chips to Microsoft and OpenAI, though agreements with these companies have not been confirmed. So, very interesting, right? This is definitely an interesting market to kind of keep a closer eye on. It's all going to be dependent on adoption by clients, right? And that's what we're going to have to investigate over time and to see who adopts it. Now, it does seem like there could be some truth to it because one of what I consider one of my favorite semiconductor analyst Dylan Patel mentioned that the rest of the world is finally picking up on Google selling TPUs externally, and kind of that within their internal multi-thousand-dollar model. They discussed details about it over a month ago regarding both TPUs V7 Ghostfish and TPUs V8 Sunfish slash Zebrafish. Since then, multiple updates with multiple confirmed customers. Now, I would say this is why sometimes, even if you don't pay for these models or these kind of information that companies like Semi Analysis have, it's great to listen to kind of interviews or podcasts that they're in. Dylan Patel, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, was in a podcast and he did kind of maybe let it be known that Google was kind of entering into the CPU market one way or another. So they kind of let a little bit things slip out. So definitely Dylan Patel and kind of the semi-analysis team listen to their podcast or whenever they are in the podcast, because sometimes they let a lot of that information slip out and it could be a great way to kind of cover and get information into the market. But overall, I see this very bullish for Google. Obviously, for companies like Nvidia, that is my number one position. It's one where, hey, look, investigation right now, I'm not going to react to it either. Now, with Amazon, Amazon's actually getting some recent news here. So Amazon is up about 0.8% after hours. The biggest thing is semi-analysis, and I'm only going to share what they have for free, right? You can sign up to their newsletter, is completely free. But they talk about how AWS is lagging right now, right? And Microsoft took over. AWS is lagging because they didn't translate into this new AI GPU cloud era as quickly. And for that, Microsoft has started to demolish. AWS is second, but Google Cloud is now kind of closing in the gap compared to how it was a few years ago. Now, Semi Analysis talked about them kind of feeling that slowdown a few quarters ago, almost a year ago, I believe. Now they're kind of changing stance. They're saying that they believe Amazon is now making the turnaround story, and they call it the AWS AI resurgence. And they start to forecast that AWS can grow at over 20% year over year growth in the upcoming quarters. So that's definitely pretty strong for Amazon shareholders. Now, they mentioned that behind their paywall, they talk a little bit more about it. So this might only be seen for just the only data that they show for free is at least into September 2026. So it's important to understand that that doesn't mean it's always going to be the case. Now, the main reason that Amazon is able to see that growth is very similar to how OpenAI and Microsoft have led that marketing AI cloud space. Amazon has invested in Anthropic, and as we saw yesterday, Anthropic is actually doing really, really well. And AWS is actually building gigawatts of data centers to be able to help this massive customer of Anthropic, which just got a $13 billion funding, right? So they have a lot and a lot of money. Now, one thing with Amazon is they're going to be using their Trinium 2 chips, which is their own ASIC solutions. So again, you can kind of see maybe a little kind of trade-off here from Nvidia. This is something we've discussed in the past. Now, a few things. I'm going to go back to where my thought process is, but Semi-Analysis has created this GPU cloud cluster. We can see the top ratings: CoreWeave, Gold Analysis, Nebius. In kind of silver, we have AWS. I personally would only like to invest in at least the top three. Anybody below that is just kind of with the market. So, for example, I know a lot of people are very bullish on iron right now, but iron is pretty low on the list at the moment in forms of how their neo cloud services are. So something to keep in mind now, right? Their power shells is different, but it's important to kind of see why you're investing in a company. So kind of some thoughts there. Semi-Analysis is going to update this status in a bit. So I will be kind of looking in for it, and I will cover it once they release it. So overall, what are we seeing? What are we seeing? What did we get out of this? First, obviously, there is some competition for NVIDIA. As an NVIDIA stock investor, I continue to believe that NVIDIA is going to dominate. With Google TPU externally, that's definitely something new and something to keep a closer eye on. Here with Trinium 2, not to worry about, something we've known about in the past. It's something to keep a closer eye on. I wouldn't react to any of this just now, but I wanted to bring up the information as it is coming into light at the moment, especially with that TPU. Now, the second thing is it does showcase that the AI market is still very, very early. I mean, we're seeing these major players are pretty much dictating who is really winning in the AI space, right? You have your OpenAI, you have your Anthropic, you have your XAI, you have your Gemini. Those are the ones that are ruling the spending right now. When inference comes out, it's definitely going to be a market where you have to not only be good at what you do, but you also need to be good at handling the supply chain of that and having great partners. And I do believe NVIDIA is really good at that in the moment. If I was to say who I would be more worried about as an investor right now, I do believe this is AMD, as AMD is obviously that player that is expected to be number two. But if you're starting to see a lot more competition from companies like Google CPUs, from companies like Amazon and Trinium, and getting a lot more kind of dependency, I think AMD would be my biggest worry at the moment. Again, I wouldn't react to it, but in kind of just the ranking of how I would put it. So right now, I'm pretty excited for the AI space. I definitely have a lot of videos that I can come up with. Let me know in the comments below, what are some things you want to learn more about? Take care, have a good day, and see you all next time.